This is the 8-9 Combo Podcast with Brett McKay and Harry Jones.
This is the 8-9 Combo, and this is the Test Match Post-Mortem. And that was a bit of Springboks line-out magic to start things in Brisbane, followed by the match winner in Wellington from Los Pumas veteran Augustine Creevy. I'm Brett McKay. This hiding behind that artwork is Harry Jones, and mate, as our podcast listeners have just heard there, South African captain Siya Kolisi crashed over for the first of 5 tries in front of a sellout crowd in Brisbane. The Boks going on to win 33-7. And then in Wellington, the second game, Argentina 38 have beaten New Zealand 30. And wow, what a first weekend of the Rugby Championship we've had.
It was amazing. You know, we've often accused the Rugby Championship of being formulaic because it's over before it starts or there's just one clear favorite. Certainly this time around, we don't know what's going to happen next.
No. And we had conversations early in the week with Paul Cully about our predictions for the finishing order, and I can comfortably throw mine out now because I don't think that will be valid anymore. It was incredible. We're back with our new international season offering as we debuted in July, an initial prognosis about what we've just seen today in Brisbane and in Wellington tonight. As I mentioned, South Africa 33 beat Australia 7 in Brisbane, and then Argentina 38 beat New Zealand in Wellington. So let's get straight into it, mate, with the 5-word headline. Whereas you recall from July, the winning headline becomes the pod title. So fire away, mate. What have you got?
Brisbane becomes Bloemfontein.
Oh, yeah? Explain.
I was shocked. I was happy, but I was shocked at how green the crowd looked in Queensland. It was actually bizarre. I thought maybe it was just a producer's trick and they were trying to make you think there were more Bok fans there than Wallaby fans. But when you actually heard the cheers, relative cheers or groans or whatever, I started to think, this is a 50-50 crowd. This is a home game.
It was. And that doesn't bode well for Perth next week, where we know there is a big South African population. All right, here's mine, and I've got a good feeling about this. Brisbane Boilover and Wellington Whackdown.
Whackdown.
Whackdown. That's definitely a word.
I like the word whackdown.
They were so good, Argentina. I'm so happy for them. Their last 20 minutes, they played with so much momentum. I don't think I've ever seen them like go in for the kill in a test. Like their tail could not have been more up.
I think it's great that Razor had to watch one of his Crusaders just gut him and welcome him to Test rugby. I mean, hello, Razor. Do you feel the pressure yet? Will you make a call to Ian Foster and say, hey, buddy, I know what you feel like now. It's hot right now in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's going to make for some very interesting articles over the Tasman over the next couple of days. So what worked then for the winners for South Africa and Argentina today? What have you seen that was really impressive?
What worked are some age-old things and then some new things. What age-old was the scrum for South Africa worked. Our friends France and Ox, they ate them up. Isaac had no answers. I thought Alan Alato had one of his toughest days at the office, and it didn't really get any better when they switched. There was one early push, but besides that, I think it was all one-way traffic. You could even say Wallabies were a little bit saved by the referee because the referee could have blown every single one of them. It looked like that. The second one would be that there was desperation on defense, but not from the team that you're thinking about, because even though the Wallabies did defend desperately, the Springboks didn't want to have the Wallabies score. Even deep into the game, they were just fighting. You realize that the Springboks, probably have fines for the one who gives the final try up. The new would be these line-out tricks and these Chess and Colby playing 9 on purpose so that Kubas Reinach, the other 9, is at his first receiver, and it just kind of just throwing little different looks. I was there for it. I loved that. I loved the line-out tricks. I know you were really into that too, trying to analyze what exactly just happened.
Well, I had to go back and watch it to work out whether Ibn Esbeth was facing backwards the whole time, or whether he turned around in the air. And so I watched it several times, and he didn't actually get up in the air until who had it at the back? Oh, Peter Stephenson. Oh, no, Ben Jason Dixon had it at the back, didn't he?
Yeah.
So once he had it, then Eben was already spinning around watching him. Then he went up himself. That has taken some work on the training paddock to get that right.
One of those true training paddock things.
It was really good.
We did it twice.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
They defended so well, the box. And I don't think I can recall line speed intensity still maintained as deep as they did, as fast as they did, for as long as they did in a game. Like that was impressive. You know what worked for Argentina today? And we talked about this in Games of the Week. There was concerns about the scrums. What worked for Argentina is they didn't pack a scrum until the 70th minute.
The referee was apologizing. Angus was saying, "I'm sorry, guys."
Yeah, he actually said
now.
that to the starting props as he sent them off. "I'm sorry, guys, you didn't get to pack a scrum." I don't think I've ever seen a game go that long before the first scrum. Surely that's some sort of record. Someone will be able to tell us that, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was bizarre. It also was interesting what worked, I guess you could say, on a macro level. It might be argumentative that for Argentina and South Africa, the winners, that they players are from everywhere. There's not this kind of doctrinal thing. You have to come from this place or that place. Argentina literally has nobody playing in Argentina. Everyone's from somewhere else. And so you kind of think maybe that the way forward is the idea of having players who have played so many different ways and seen everything. They're not shocked by everything. In contrast, the Super Rugby incubator, whilst it has that cohesion factor, you might not see as many differences. So if you're just playing Kiwi team, or playing Aussie team, maybe you don't see enough. I don't know. This is interesting, subtext.
Well, and the subplot of that is how much rugby does the modern player actually watch, like outside their own competition?
Yeah, true.
And my gut suspicion is that it's less than it was 5 years ago, which was already less than it was 10 years ago. So it's a really good point. And then it makes you wonder, what is the magic sauce that Rassi imposes, that Felipe Contepomi imposes on his team when they first come into camp? What do they say to them? All right, guys, I know you're coming from the four corners, but we've just got to get on with the job here. And I'm sure it's not as simple as that, but holy hell, it's working somehow. I'm
looking for some similarities there, and I'll just say for the box for the longest time now, it's a very loose camp. There's a great deal of comfort between coach and player, between player and player, between the various physios and staff members. There's a happiness in that camp.
Yeah.
I'm not ever accusing Razor or Joe of running an unhappy camp, but they're still forming it. And so maybe maybe Felipe Contepomi sort of inherited a very happy camp that under the new checker, who was a smiling guy. And so I do think these are young men. We forget that sometimes. And, just making them more nervous doesn't really help. If you're Carlo Tizzano and it's your first time on, maybe you don't need to be just built up so much.
You certainly don't need to be off your feet for the first 14 rucks that you hit. He bent it the hard way there, didn't he? But he didn't stop trying. I'll give him that credit on debut. And if there's something that worked for the Wallabies, before we quickly move on to the next obvious question that we need to ask, if there's something that did work for the Wallabies, I thought they actually their scramble defense kept them in the first half. And I said as much on social media, it should have been way more than 21-0 at halftime.
That's a decent more. It's like a goalkeeper where you lose 5-0, but the goalkeeper kept it from being 12-0. I mean, And I know, and I want to explore this more. I know there was a bit of criticism in the commentary about that their attack was too narrow, but I actually think that they were often going to a second pass, or they were going to a second pass before the pick and drive. So they were actually changing the position of the pick and drive. And it did actually make the South African defense just adjust on the run a bit. And so there was a few there was gain line gains to be made there at time. But there was, there'd be 7 or 8 phases and there'd be a knock on. Or there'd be, a turnover penalty, or, they'd just let themselves down when they maybe were getting a semblance of
of momentum there. Conversely to what worked for the winners, what didn't go so well then for Australia and New Zealand?
I'm right there with you. I think Australia relieved their own pressure. So they would build a bit of pressure and relieve it. I thought the tactics were fine. I thought it was, if you kick, then you have to land the kick in a chaseable circle. That wasn't happening. They were too long at times. But no, I think, what didn't work? I said, I almost have to go back to what did work in that, strangely enough, I would say the Australian midfield didn't do too badly. And yet it was outplayed by the Boks midfield. Everything that kind of worked was outplayed. So, like Tate McDermott was good, but I thought Williams was better. Robert Valentini was good. Peter Steff was better. Everything was matched. There was no plan B. What didn't work is that it seemed
there's long not been a plan B with Australia though for a long time.
When it was going to 21-0, which was where the match was lost because second half was 12-7. So you're like in there. That just seemed like you were on repeat cycle in the washing machine. And I just you're gonna have to, I don't know what it is, but something else has to happen here or it's just gonna continue doing. And actually I think you made this comment in our WhatsApp group is it could have been worse. It could have been so much worse. It could have been 35, 36, 38.
Yeah, that was the surprise. It was only 3 tries at half time. New Zealand, I think, and my observation about New Zealand in the second half is that although they would get back at Argentina when Argentina took the lead a couple of times there in the second half, and they would get back at them, but it seemed to me like they got swallowed within their own self-doubt. Oh, we better not lose this. Oh, we better not lose this. Oh, we better not lose this. Holy shit, we're going to lose this. And I don't know, the further it got on it, and that's why I say Argentina were able to play with so much momentum in that last quarter because New Zealand suddenly found themselves in a position that they haven't been in very often, and it wasn't clear that they knew how to get themselves out of it. And I don't think I've ever been able to say that about an All Black team before.
Yeah, I mean, 38 points given by New Zealand to Argentina. You just don't see this. I think that was the most points ever conceded to Argentina. So the verdict is clear. What didn't work is the defensive structure, the defensive desire, the connection between people between players in transition. There was just a bit of a muddle to it. And I always felt like New Zealand could keep scoring. I never worried about that. I thought, they can just do that. But nobody was making a stop. There was also bad exits. I thought the exit play by All Blacks was maybe one of my fundamentals. I would say you've got to do better next time.
It's a fair point. For our podcasters, this is a bit of Wallabies coach Joe Schmidt with some pretty frank honesty after his loss, and I quite like this from him, which will be inserted right here. I like that interview from Schmidt, mate. I like the way that he said that they knew it was going to be tough, but was proud of the way that he stepped into it, acknowledged that there's some adjustments they need to make, acknowledged that there's some hard lessons that they've now learned, but it actually wasn't too different a post-match interview than it was after the 3 wins in July. And that's sort of my point. He is very level-headed about this Australian team. He knows the magnitude of the rebuild. And so I think that was just sense from Joe Schmidt in that interview.
I think clarity from coaches is king. Look, I looked across the team and thought 3 guys sort of played okay. I thought 5 or 6 maybe a little bit less than okay. And I thought there were 7 or 8 that were actually quite poor. I think Joe Schmidt knows that. So part of that underlying thing will be personnel. So I'm not saying Carlo Tizzano is not a test player. I'm just saying he looked a little bit small. He looked a little bit underpowered.
He did in the company that he was operating within,
in that particular situation. That's interesting. That's good to know for someone. I thought the hookers had a really, really rough day. So there's things there to work on. I would say the problem for Joe is at some of these critical positions that he has in camp, unless he goes overseas or does something else, he's sort of stuck with what he's got. So his lock, the locks are the locks. I don't know what else you do.
You expect that Taniela Tupou would come back next week. I'd expect that Marika Corumbeti will play next week now as well.
He would have been good on the field there. There was a speed deficit. I felt like just on a team speed issue. Like I always look at the stats that don't crop up as much anymore about recover of loose ball. I think the team that wins seems to win that stat a lot. And I just felt like every ball was getting to bounce in a backhand. That's not just luck, that's effort. And guys like Ben, Jason, Dixon, Sasha Feinberg Ngonzolu was not just an attack 10 today. I would say he really defended.
He did defend pretty well. Yeah,
he was getting stuck in. I thought there was just an overall like sense of urgency, which the Boks have sadly not had in Australia a lot of times in first test.
No, there was a determination about them today. There was they from the outset played like a team that was just not going to give the opposition an inch. And once they got in front, there was then a determination to not let that lead slip. And it just got bigger from there.
I actually wondered it off. I was wondering if I was in the cloakroom for Wallabies. What am I telling my guys? Like, what is?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is it? I'd actually be like a little bit embarrassed if I was Laurie Fisher and say, "Wait, hold on, let me work this out. I'm not really ready yet." Like, it didn't seem like a fixable problem. Now, all credit to the Wallabies. There was a way they crawled back in, and it was to force penalties. I think that overall penalty count was actually large for both. I think it was 15-13.
I was going to say, 15, 11, or 12, but you might be right. It might have been more.
One way
the Wallabies won. The Wallabies won a heap late, and all they could do was keep kicking to the corner because there was obviously no point taking the threes. But then that would invite the line out to be contested. So I've tweaked the last question. I'm now asking who learnt what from round one, and I suppose there's short-term and longer-term considerations here.
For New Zealand, I would say I'm not altogether convinced about the loose trio makeup. My Kiwi friends swear by Ethan Blackadder. I really have never done that. I've never thought that he was really the game-changing kind of Jerome Kaino kind of prototype that you need. And I do think New Zealand has them. I think there's some people who aren't even in the squad they could pick. But I think that's where I would put most of my focus. I thought the loose trio for the Pumas thoroughly outplayed their counterparts, even Artie Savea, which is hard to say. He hardly ever gets outplayed. So that's that's what I've learned that wouldn't work. And then I think, well, on the plus side, I thought Sam Darry had a good game. So there's a bright spot. I'm going back to this idea of Damian McKenzie and running a game, just controlling it, just finding a way to make a lead of 3 or 4 turn into a lead of 10 instead of losing it. I'm not blaming him altogether, but the shape of it.
Do you think McKenzie is not helped by Bowden Barrett being on the field at fullback?
Yeah, there's that syndrome, like the guy watching over your shoulder. Oh, before I go there, I must say TJ Perenara getting charged down twice in the space of 2 minutes didn't really help the cause too. It just makes you shaky. Yeah, the game managers at 9, 10, and 15 there. Oh, I've never seen a more, I don't know, just kind of naive. It was naive. I thought the All Blacks played naive and the Pumas were street smart.
You mentioned Ethan Blackadder. Was he lucky not to be yellow carded?
Absolutely. I don't know what was going on there. Our friend from the pod was saying direct head
contact. Brett Cronin.
Well, was the direct? Yes, there was direct. Yes. And then it's upward.
Yes. Can confirm there was definitely direct contact with the head.
Shoulder to head.
And he was, if anything, he was hot. I mean, not if anything, he was absolutely higher in the tackles than Malcolm Marx was in Brisbane earlier. And apples and apples, if one's a yellow card, the other one has to be. So, and in saying that, I'd have been comfortable if neither were upgraded.
True.
But I can't view those two tackles side by side and say one is and one isn't. You and I never really get boiled down in referee too much.
But the bane of our existence in rugby right now is when you have a game back to back, something so similar and it's different outcomes. It's weird. What are we doing we're staying as fans, we're waiting for suspense. We should know what it is. You should see
the contrast was obvious. Luke Pearce said, okay, all right, so there's direct contact with the head. There is. Okay, all right, that's yellow card threshold. Here you go. Here's the card, and we go on. Angus Gardner and Brett Cronin got into this sort of back and forward. Oh, I'm not sure if that was actually at one point he was actually suggesting that the initial contact was the Argentinian head running into the shoulder.
Which we've never really done. We've tried to stay away from that argument.
Yes.
You're like, my head
but I can see how he got there.
And you have to adjust as a tackler.
I can see how he got there because Blackadder got knocked backwards.
Yep.
he lost the momentum, if you like. So anyway,
I did quite enjoy Malcolm Marx staying on and waiting for the argument between Peter Steph-Toy, who was acting as captain, and the ref, and just going, "Am I on? Am I off? Am I on? Am I on?"
Yes. Yeah, there was a moment. I was like, "You sure?"
The card's out. He's not going to change.
There was an interesting moment when he did go off, and then there was a scrum eventually. Malcolm Marx, I'm talking about. I thought actually there was a brief moment where I thought, "Are the Boks going to have to go uncontested here?" Because Bongi went off partly injured, I thought. So, and there was even question at the time: is that tactical or is it necessary?
Yeah, that was interesting. It was that was some very interesting back and forths there. At some point, I thought there was 12 players on the field. Maybe it never was, but it was close to being 12 versus 15.
Yeah, there you go. Anything Rassie learnt that you can see him adjusting for Perth next week?
Yeah, so I think on the bench, I think the bomb squad didn't quite, detonate as much. So I think maybe
they probably didn't have to be fair.
Yeah, I think the switch around. So the switch was actually interesting. The switch happened, and it made the Boks a quicker team because now you move Peter Steph-Toy, like one of the quickest locks in World Rugby, into lock. Then Jason Dixon is a very fleet-footed blindside, and so it became a little bit. It was like the bomb squad started almost like the bomb happened in the beginning and it ran away, and then the job in the second half was just to maintain. I would think there's some kicking errors. There were some loose kicks that maybe went the wrong way.
They didn't contest as much, the Boks.
Wasn't much to fix though. Anytime you go to Australia and win 33-7,
you've done a lot right, haven't you? Yeah. I will be interested to see what Joe Schmidt adjusts this week, and there will be adjustments. There will have to be. There's been some interesting takes and prognosis and post-mortems done on the socials already, and why aren't they attacking? Why? It's pretty hard for a team to attack when they're really not making much ground over the own line. They couldn't play with the speed they wanted. They couldn't get quick ball. They couldn't actually build momentum at any point through the game. So I don't like that. To me, that didn't feel like a loss that you need to go, all right, I think we need to change a few different things here. I don't think that's the case. I think that's, if anything, you probably want to try and give those guys an opportunity to show that you can actually try and do that and try and build that momentum that they just never got a chance to. So
it's a tough match to go to 9 and 10 first. You have to stay with what happened, which was big carriers did not get over the gain line. Once again, the cleaning was ragged.
Yeah.
And beyond phase 2, not even phase 3, phase 2, it seemed really tenuous. So, you can fault Jake and Noah all you want, but I don't know if anyone in that situation would have done much differently.
No, exactly. And when McDermott and Liner came on, nothing changed.
It was a different match anyway. So the couple of things that did look different, by that time the Boks were in more a run the clock out mode. So different.
Yeah. But my point being that they didn't have it any better.
It wasn't that much.
No, there was no difference there. What was interesting was that Gordon was playing more of a distributor. They were definitely playing more off Lolosio this week. He was throwing inside passes. He was throwing outside passes. They were running, blokes were coming around the corner even off Lolosio at times. So there was an effort, and that was talking. That's that earlier point that I was making about. There was an effort to move the point of the next contact. So
and Hunter,
I think there is something in that.
They had some good moments. The problem was there wasn't enough sufficiency of volume of rucks built in opposition territory in places you could attack. Like the number of that was nothing. I mean, I from half to half, like the territory in first half was almost like 60+% Boks.
And it was lower than I thought it was.
Yeah,
if I'm completely honest, possession and territory at halftime was way lower than I thought.
So there was no place to launch from. I mean, you cannot launch from your own 22 and expect anything good to come of it, because at some point in time, I felt like there was this kind of ironic thing where run the Boks off their feet, and I felt like at some point the Wallabies were tired, or looked more tired.
They were.
So
they absolutely were. Yeah. By the end of the game, there was only one team that was run off their feet, and they weren't wearing the green jerseys, I'm afraid.
I would
So,
shelve that whole, that proverb. It doesn't make sense
like
to me
you
anymore. These
you
are
said it the other
professional,
night.
rugby players. They're highly tuned athletes. I
Yeah.
don't see any fat box running around.
You said it in the games of the week. You said it with Paul earlier last week. It's an old, outdated, debunked now stereotype that doesn't fit.
Yeah. I mean, look at Jesse Creel. We talked about Jesse Creel a little bit, and on one of the pods we were on, and there were a couple of moments there where he just
one of the pods we were on,
brimming with confidence.
We did a lot of talking last week.
he shook off three guys to make that angle, and then found just the right moment to throw that lateral across. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
Cheslin Colby has finished a game in which he scored a try, fed a scrum, and threw a line-out ball.
At the end of the match, he was on a knee. I think he was looking to the heavens, from whence my help comes. He was really exhausted.
Is he sending an invoice to the front rowers union? Surely. He has to.
There was that moment when he was going to throw into the line-out, and I was like, oh, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, exactly. But that's a wrap then on the Test match post-mortem for the first week of the Rugby Championship. And with that, another service to Test Rugby is fulfilled. I do like these. I do like your artwork too. We're going to talk more about that. That could be the first 8-9 line of merch,
Yeah.
Oh, you've even put the cards there. Our YouTube viewers can see this. For our podcast listeners, Harry is holding up his crayon art that he debuted this week with now with score and yellow cards, and it does look very good. I'll stick a grab of that up on the socials. But do tell us what you think at the 8-9 combo on all the socials, or leave your thoughts in the comments section right here on the 8-9 combo YouTube channel, or tell Harry and I on the socials in our usual places. Please do like, follow, subscribe on your platform of choice and YouTube as well, and you'll get everything as soon as it drops throughout the Rugby Championship. This is the Test match post-mortem from the 8-9 combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed, coming from the podcast double act you already had. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones. And we'll be back in your ears with South African rugby YouTube star and friend of the pod, Rian Lowe, next week.
Come to Perth with us.
This is the 8-9 Combo Podcast with Brett McKay and Harry Jones.